Yep, good to go. All right, recording. Here we go. So, how you guys doing? First of all, I want to give you my review for Rogue One because I just want to talk about it with someone. I don't know who's seen it and who hasn't seen it, so I'm just going to give you the spoiler review. So I saw it last night, and so I like to. What I see almost all of my movies at night, and I just wanted to kind of think it over and sleep on it, just kind of see how I felt. So most of my movie reviews are like the day after, and it's just kind of like I had time to think about it, sleep on it, wake up in the morning, tell you how I feel. So this is my day after review for Rogue One, spoilers included. Okay, so here's the deal. Where to start? I'm gonna just start with the whole premise of the movie. Very good. I love the idea. I've always loved the idea since it came out, like what Rogue One was going to be about. I thought it was great. Now here's how I'm going to judge this movie. I would call it a success because I'm never going to look at episode 4 the same. So I'm going to, like when Leia's got the plans, she gives plans to R2, R2 makes his way to Obi-Wan. Like, I'm never going to look at that the same. That's going to be so much more important to me because this movie, I think, was a success in the area of making you really care, making what they're doing feel important. And it felt so important in the Star Wars universe. More than any, I think, other movie for me in the Star Wars series. I mean, Revenge of the Sith maybe because that's the transition from Anakin to Darth Vader, and, like, that's very important. But this was so, like, important. And the movie felt important. And it felt like what they were doing was a big deal. So in that area, I have to say the movie's a success. Critically, whether you think it was, maybe the performances were good or not, the movie's a success for me because it changes the way that I'm going to look at Star Wars Episode 4 and the subsequent movies. It's going to change just how I feel about the characters and how I feel about what they're doing. Especially like Episode 4, like I said, destroying the Death Star. Like, this was the perfect prequel to Episode 4 in terms of the action and the just the plot was the perfect setup to that. Here's some things I don't know. I think that the movie had some great moments of brilliance. I mean, the entire, spoiler alert, the entire cast dying was great. Like, I love stuff like that. I love tragic. And I really felt like that was brilliant. That was it, even the way they died was just like they were all like doing something important. And it felt old school. It kind of felt like what's that movie? I think it's like a war movie. Is it The Dirty Dozen, I think? And like almost everybody in The Dirty Dozen dies. But they're like doing something. They're like on a mission and like they sacrifice themselves basically. And that movie made me really sad when I was younger. But like this movie, it kind of also made me sad. But it was like, wow, like it was like noble sacrifice. And I loved that in that, I don't know. I just really like that. What was I saying? But okay, so yeah, so the cast. So while I'm on that topic, let me talk about the cast. I think the cast, for the most part, did well. I think the performances were pretty solid all around. I think there were a couple standouts. I would say it's hard to say he's a standout, but voice acting is a big deal. K2SO, Alan Tudyk, beautiful, so good, great character. Provided the necessary comic relief, but was hilarious, and I don't know. I think he was very endearing. I might get crap for this. I thought Diego Luna as Cassian Andor was very good. I thought he had. I don't know if I'd say it's a great performance. I wouldn't say it's exceptional or Oscar worthy, but it was a great performance. I really enjoyed him in that character, and I really just liked like his whole. I know it's kind of his big moment in the film, but like his outburst to Jyn on the ship after Edu. Like where he's almost going to kill her dad. Like that whole scene is great. Even from the beginning, honestly, I really liked him. He got more emotional and kind of involved, I think, in her and in their mission. The further it went, he kind of became a believer, and I loved that arc. And I thought he did I'd say it's a great performance by Diego Luna. Now here's where I'm also going to get crap. I don't know if I loved Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso. But here's the problem. It's not that she didn't do well. I thought she did good. Like, definitely passable. I wouldn't say it was a great performance, but it definitely was good. But I think it's her story. I think it's her entire arc, her, like, the setting for her. I don't know if I'd love it. It was very simple, which I guess is a good thing. But like, her dad's the engineer, and then she sees mom killed. Oh no! And then dad goes back, and does she know if dad's alive or not? Like, I wish they had explored that more and given her a bit more. Not so much her performance, but I wish that the writers had kind of given her a bit more opportunity for her to show us like how she feels, how she thinks. Like the moment with her and the hologram in Saw Gerrera's like underground headquarters there, I thought that was really good. That was probably one of my favorite moments from her in that entire movie, is when she's watching that hologram of her dad. And her dad, by the way, I thought Mads Mikkelsen was great. But I love him in pretty much everything, so I'm a fanboy. He's really good. But I thought he was great in that role. And when he's delivering that hologram message, like even in his voice, like his voice cracked, like he was mad emotional. And her response to that, I thought that was a great moment. And I wish they had given us more of that. I thought that was some of the best acting probably from her in that movie. She was more emotional there than she was when he died, I thought. Like she was a little bit more panicked when he died. But I don't know. I thought that was good. And I wish we had more. If she's going to be our main character and she's our buy-in point, like she's the one we care about, we should have gotten more of that, more reason to care about her instead of just her like we also didn't find out like why she was in prison in the beginning, like, and they were like, oh, aggravated assault. It read like, I don't know. It was very generic, and I wish we had just gotten a bit more reason to buy into her. In that sense. That entire first act in the movie, I didn't like. I don't know if it was like slow and rushed at the same time. We were going back and forth to like 700 planets, and finally at the end when it's like Yavin 4, I was like, oh, I finally know what's going on now. They must be going to the Rebel Alliance. But all these other planet names were just thrown out there. There was like a 2-minute scene with Cassian, your introduction to Cassian, when he like kills the spy. I was like, it wasn't necessary. Like I would have believed if you just introduced him in the scene with Mon Mothma and everybody, and they were like, oh, this is Cassian Andor, Rebel Intelligence, and he just kind of swaggers over with this like stone cold look, I'd have been like, oh yeah, he's killed for the rebellion. I didn't need to see him just kill some one-armed dude in an alley. I didn't need that. That was silly. I didn't like that introduction for him. And it didn't really forward the plot either. Like, the guy was like, oh, there's a rebel spy, like a defector. Like, they could have just told us that in the main scene with Mon Mothma and the generals when Jin gets brought in. They could have just told us all of that about Bodhi. Speaking of Bodhi, he was such a good character at the end of the movie. But in his introduction on that planet, like, I didn't understand what was going on. There's guys talking in alien languages, and then tentacle monster just, like, wipes his thoughts, I think. It's a truth. So it's a lie detecting alien that also makes you go crazy. But he didn't go crazy because Diego Luna said some trigger word to him and was just like, you're Bodhi the pilot. And he's like, I'm Bodhi the pilot. What? Okay. I didn't like that at all. Like I said, the first third of the movie I didn't think was great. I think that's probably because I know there was a lot of reshoots like surrounding this movie. I think that might have been it. I don't know. Here's my feeling on the entire movie. The third act. Okay, so even like part of the second, basically everything from Edu, which I thought was great with Krennic coming in. We'll talk about Krennic. With Krennic coming in, and then he's, Diego Luna's there, like about to maybe snipe Galen. And then Galen, like, sacrifices himself, basically, for the engineers. They kill the engineers anyway, and then he slaps his dad around, or he slaps Jin's dad around, and then Jin, like, comes out. That entire scene I thought was great, but I also think that Ben Mendelsohn as Krennic was fantastic. I told you I'll talk about him in a minute. This might be a long video. Okay, so I thought he was great. But everything from Edu, basically until the Death Star destroys the Scarif base, and the entire cast dies. Everything between there, almost everything between there, I thought was very good. I feel like, and I just get this weird gut feeling that was the most, that didn't suffer from any of the reshoots. I feel like that was Gareth Edwards directing, and I thought that was his vibe for this movie. Especially the entire cast dying, which I'll come back to and go back to and go back to and go back to. It's great. It's exactly what we kind of expected but didn't want to happen, but it happened anyway. And it made you sad. The only thing that didn't make me super sad about it is that I didn't care about all of characters. I cared about Cassian. I kind of cared about Jin by proxy because of her father and because of Cassian and her connection with them. I thought was good. And she came off as definitely tough, but I don't think she portrayed the emotions as well. And I just wasn't... She felt a little flat to me as a character, which is why I don't think I bought into her. Chirrut, the blind force monk, and his buddy, I can't remember his buddy's name. I don't remember. But them dying, like, sure, the movie didn't really give me tons of reason to buy into them as characters. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, they're the guardians of the temple. You should like them. They're cool. Like, I'm gonna be in the minority here. That was enough for me. I don't care. Like everyone, all the reviews I've heard are like, give us a reason to care about these guys. I'm like, I cared. As soon as they showed up and were cool, I cared. And maybe I'm just a fanboy. Maybe I'm not Star Wars nerdy enough. But, like, you don't have to tell me all about who they are. Like, if they're good characters, I'll buy into them. And they were good characters. They served their purpose. They weren't major, but they were cool. And I liked them. And he's all like, I'm one with the Force. The Force is with me. I was like, this is great. I bought into that immediately just because they were cool. That's all you have to give me is awesome characters with at least some range. Maybe I care about acting more than I care about story. I don't know. But I thought they were good. I thought Donnie Yen was really good. I thought that entire scene with him dying and then his buddy, like, picking up, like, his gun and starting to say, like, I'm one with the Force. I was just like, yeah. That was one of the most emotional moments of that movie for me. I thought that was great because he'd been a skeptic this whole time. And maybe it's predictable, but I thought it was good. But wait, let's go back to Bodhi real quick. Bodhi dying in that ship, that was good. Like, I was sad, but I was just like, Bodhi by the end of the movie, I liked. I just wish that whole first third of the movie was different. I don't know. All right, let me talk about two more things. Last two things. Vader. Holy crap. That last scene with Vader was goosebump inducing. It was insane. Here's the thing. I wish that had been the only moment we saw Vader in this movie. Because the earlier moment with Krennic, in fact, that entire subplot of the power struggle between Tarkin and Krennic was unnecessary. Like, they literally could have just had, like, maybe like a hologram of Tarkin at one point being like, you are failing and don't make us take over this project. And he's like, I will not fail. Like, I would have preferred to see that instead of Tarkin showing up and them kind of struggling. And then Tarkin Krennic going to see Vader, basically just asking if he's in charge still. Basically just a shoehorn scene for us to get more Vader. And then Vader being all like, don't choke on your aspiration. Like, since when is he punny? I don't remember Vader ever being punny. Maybe he was and I'm forgetting. But, like, that whole scene made me think of Vader less. Like, it made me think less of him. Like, it's not that it wasn't good, it was pointless. And they wasted Vader in that scene. And sure, they made up for it later with, like, with the crazy. But I didn't like that at all. And it only was, that point was only to serve the subplot of the power struggle between Krennic and Tarkin. And in the end, Krennic dies anyway. Like, I would have just loved to have seen his struggle throughout the movie, not struggling back and forth, but him struggling to try to make this station awesome. Maybe even give me a little bit more of him and Galen, kind of, like, were they friends? Are they, were they just working together? Or, like, did at one point Galen really believe in this? And then give me the Krennic-Galen relationship, how that went sour. Galen dies. Maybe he's almost upset because were they friends? I don't know. But by the end, make it just Krennic's ultimate struggle. Give me more emotion. That was the only thing I didn't like from Ben Mendelsohn in this entire movie, is at the very end, when he's, like, got his blaster at Jin. He didn't seem as emotional. Like, he's like, you've lost. Like, I just wanted him to be desperate. I wanted this Death Star to be, like, his project. And in the end, he dies, he gets shot, and then Tarkin takes over. Because that last scene with Tarkin targeting Scarif Base, yes, I liked that a lot. I wish that had been the only time we had seen Tarkin. Maybe seen him on a hologram, like I said. But maybe he's watching, and then he just realizes it's all a failure, and he says target Scarif base, and the whole place blows up, and then Krennic's dead anyway. Like, that would have carried more emotional weight than if I saw this power struggle between Tarkin, which I thought, again, was unnecessary. Okay, last thing. Vader. Going back to that real quick. What if we had just not seen him in that scene, making puns and force gripping people? Mustafar, they didn't even identify the planet. I think Mustafar? No clue. And then they just tease him throughout the movie. They say something about, like, Vader, and everyone's like, Lord Vader, and, like, everyone, like, acts scared because it's, like, Lord Vader, right? And then they keep that part where he says, Lord Vader will take care of the rebel fleet. And then you're like, oh, snap, we're going to see him. Like, tease the fact whether or not we're going to see Vader or not. I didn't like seeing him in the trailers either. I would have preferred to just have a little bit of a tease, maybe like his respirator in the trailer, and you're like, oh, he's going to show up somewhere. I want him to be scary. I want the mythos of Vader, the scariness of Vader, I want that to be intact. And I feel like they threw that out the window a little bit with the scene between Krennic and Vader. But make sure that, like, Vader will go after the fleet, like they say. And then just play out the rest of the third act like normal. When they're about to jump away and the Star Destroyer comes out of space and blows up that one ship, I was just like, oh, he's here. And how much greater would that moment have been if I didn't see him already making jokes? So that shows up, play out the same rest of the third act, takes over the ship, and then the only moment you see Vader in this film. And they should have pronounced it a bit more, I think, too. But I think the whole scene was good. It's like smoky, and then just lightsaber. Like, I would have pooped my pants. I almost did anyway. It was so good. And then play out that scene was great. That was so good. It was dramatic. I was worried. That was the most emotional, bought into that movie I got. The plans are in the same corridor as Vader, and he's just slicing people in half and throwing them on the roof. And they hand the plans through that cracked door because the door wouldn't open. Like, oh, that was heavy. And it was too soon after that scene that they give the plans to Leia. And here comes more hate. I didn't need to see CGI Carrie Fisher. I really didn't. I think it would have been so much better if when the door opened and I saw her back, I was like, it's Princess Leia. And I knew that. And I didn't need to see her face or for her to have any lines. I just would have loved it to be, Your Highness. And he hands her the plans. And maybe she, like, turns and we see her shoulder just like they did, but without the face. And maybe they could even get a voice to do, like, thank you, Captain. There's still hope. Like, that would have been a better ending for me. I didn't like seeing her CGI face as the last thing in the movie. And then, okay, last thing. This is going to be a 20-minute video. Here's the thing. The pacing of the order of the scenes for the last act, I didn't like as much, because the last thing I want is, they downplayed in the arranging and editing of this movie, they almost downplayed the importance of the crew and the characters we've been following this whole time, because we don't see them for the last 5 minutes of the movie. We see Vader and the rebels, and, like, that was a great scene. I just talked about it. But I would have preferred for them to order it or make the timing happen in such a way that you, like, in the very end, like, maybe, like, the second to last scene, like, the last minute before the movie ends, like, as this captain is running down the hallway, struggling to get these plans to Princess Leia on the blockade runner, we flash back to Scarif, and they're just sitting there on the beach watching this atomic bomb cloud roll in, basically. Like, that's what I wanted. That scene with them on the beach I thought was great, with Cassian and Jyn, and I wish that had been, like, almost the very end of the movie. Literally just that before the scene I just described where he hands Leia the plans. And instead of her being like, hope, and then like, I didn't feel happy when the credits rolled, and the music and the tone of it just didn't jive. Everyone had just died, and it was, I wish they had played that more. And then the credits roll with them basically, they're dead. Princess Leia says we have hope, but like a slower, like, da-na, na-na-na-na-na-na, like the love theme, basically, from Star Wars, that's a bit slower and more emotional, but, like, really organize arrange the strings and stuff just to make it feel more emotional. because at the end I wanted to walk out with like a, man, they really sacrificed for the rebellion, and like that was, they gave it all. Like I wanted to be sad, and I feel like the movie with the shoehorning in of CGI Princess Leia and then happy Star Wars music, I was walking out and like the music's like, doing the main Star Wars theme, and I'm just like, oh man, that was tough. And maybe I'm just a sucker, but I bought into the characters enough that there was emotional weight for the end of the movie. That's that. Oh, last thing, Krennic. What I'm not even going to talk about it. He was great. He was so good. And like I said, I mean, maybe a small critique. I wish he'd been a little bit more emotional. But again, I think this movie was full of great moments that kind of belied a little bit of a, I don't know. I wish they had done some different things with the writing, with the story, just to give it more emotional weight. Because if the crux of the movie is everyone dies, it's sad. Death Star gets completed, and sure, the plans are there and there's still hope, but at what cost? Just like in the trailer. By the way, that's a pet peeve of mine. They used a lot of trailers and scenes in the... they used lines and scenes in the trailer that weren't in the movie. Pet peeve. But, like, even in the trailer when Saw Gerrera says, like, what will you become? Like, not so much what will you become, but what will you give? What will you sacrifice? That was the core theme of this movie for me. Even Cassian saying, like, I've done things for the rebellion. All of these men have done things for the rebellion. We've murdered, and we're saboteurs, and we're assassins. That was the heavy part for me. That was the part that I really wanted to buy into. And that was how I wanted the movie to end. I wanted to walk out and be like, man, there's still a hope for the galaxy, but at what cost? I didn't feel like I got that. So, overall, I give the movie B+. That's what I'd say. If I'm grading on a scale of like A+ to like F. I'd say like B+. There were, like I said, the core thing that I think of is there were moments of brilliance, but it was like a good movie with some exceptional moments, but also a couple lackluster things that I just wish could have been, if like with little changes, I think could have been a lot better. And if there's ever any movie that I want to see a director's cut of, like what did Gareth Edwards want for this movie? If I could see that, like I think it'd be a bit darker, and I think it'd be better, honestly. That's the review. Peace out, boys.